Okay, today we're going to once again talk about function words. Now, this is something that I actually emphasize quite often, right? Because words can be divided into two categories, meaning words and function words. Now, if you run into a meaning word, you translate its meaning. However, if you run into a function word, that can be a fundamentally wrong approach. If you run into a function word, yeah, you don't translate its meaning, you understand its function. In other words, if you run into a meaning word, the question can be, what does this word mean? However, if you run into a function word, the question should be, what does this word do? Okay, so that's why when you run into a function word and you try to translate it, I call that the trap of translation. Now, if you fall for the trap of translation, because it is a fundamentally wrong approach, you keep on running into misunderstandings. You are not fully grasping what's really going on here. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. Okay, so what do we have here? 못 줬어요. 못 줬어요. So what am I saying? 못 can't and 줬어요. I'm using the verb give, 주다. Of course, I am inflecting it, in other words, conjugating it into its actual form, past tense. So gave. I inflected it, in other words, conjugated it according to the rules of inflection route number one, right? Okay, so we're saying can't gave as a way of saying couldn't give, right? Now, of course, in poetic slash textbook Korean or soldier Korean or professional Korean, for example, in other formats of Korean, yes, there is something that is the exact equivalent of couldn't. However, in real conversational Korean, you do not use it, right? So you change couldn't into can't. But if you do change couldn't into can't, now there is nothing that indicates past tense. So that's why the verb does it itself. That's why we have can't gave instead of couldn't give. That's why you don't say couldn't find, you say can't found. You don't say couldn't sleep, you say can't slept. Okay, so anyway, that's why we have can't gave as a way of saying couldn't give. Okay, so these two are meaning words. Okay, so I can ask the question, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? Oh, can't. Okay, can't. Translate. Okay, what does this word mean? 줬어요. It means gave. Okay, gave. Translate. Okay, but this is a function word. These two are meaning words, but this is a function word. So I'm going to fundamentally change the question. I'm going to change the question into, what does this word do? Okay, so let's answer that question. What does this word do? So you can sometimes see this adverb 참아 modifying some kind of a verb. Now, it indicates that something did not take place. For example, someone couldn't do something, but specifically because of an emotional burden or obstacle. One more time. This indicates that something did not take place. For example, someone couldn't do something, but specifically because of an emotional burden or obstacle. Okay, so 참아 못 줬어요. Let's put it in a real situation, in a realistic situation as an example. Okay, so let's say I have a colleague slash friend. Okay, now he is put in a tough spot because he has to deliver a letter that has very bad news in it. He has to deliver it to a third person. Okay, so let's say his name is Max, the person who has to get the letter, who has to get the bad news. So I'm gonna ask my colleague slash friend, oh, did you give Max the letter? And he says, ah, 못 줬어요. No, can't gave. No, not yet. Can't gave, couldn't give. Okay, but he added 참아. Okay, so now he just actively let me know that I couldn't give it to him because of an emotional burden or obstacle, because I have to be the one to deliver bad news. So he's going to be sad, he's going to be devastated. I have to be in that room. I am put in a tough spot. Because, I think we can all relate to this as human beings, right? When you are the one who has to deliver bad news and you have to see them in despair, that pains you too. I feel bad too. Okay, so my colleague slash friend, he is having a hard time giving Max the letter, not because he couldn't find Max, not because he was busy because of work, no, because of an emotional burden, emotional obstacle. Okay, so now, what if I ask the listener? So my friend says, no, I couldn't give it to him yet. 차마 못 줬어요. 차마 못 줬어요. So let's say, what if I don't really understand what this word does here? Then I could take it as, oh, simply, oh, you couldn't give it to him? Okay, like, do you not know where he is? His office is on the third floor. Do you want me to show you where his office is? Or like, were you busy? Did you lose the letter? Okay, so now if I do that, what did I just become? I became a very insensitive person. Because now it sounds like I'm saying, stop whining about emotions, just go give it to him. It's just a letter. Yeah, it's not even heavy, just go give it to him. Okay, so now I just became like a very insensitive person. So this is where misunderstandings happen. My friend slash colleague now could think that I am a very insensitive person. And now, so he misunderstands me, I misunderstand the situation. Okay, so meticulously understanding the function of function words, yes, is good to avoid misunderstandings. And plus, yeah, it is also, yeah, very fruitful to really study function words because now it gives me means of picking up information. Because, for example, let's say, so I said this letter has very bad news in it. Now, my friend knows it, my colleague knows it, that's why he is hesitating to give it to Max. But let's say I didn't. I didn't know what the letter was about. But the moment my friend says I couldn't give it to Max, but because of an emotional burden, obstacle, 차마 못 줬어요. Now, that gives me a whole bunch of information, right? Now, you don't have to tell me that the letter has bad news in it. I'm going to instantly pick that up because, yeah, oh, it's very emotionally hard to deliver that letter. Okay, that letter must have some devastating news in it then. Okay, so that's how I pick up a whole bunch of information from my surroundings, from the context, from the situation through function words. So if you don't meticulously understand function words, you are misunderstanding the situation. Okay, and one more thing. Now, once again, because these two are meaning words, we translated it. Now, once again, we're not going to do it with this. In other words, don't ask this question. Oh, you said emotional burden or obstacle, so therefore something didn't take place. Okay, then does it mean emotional? Can I translate it into emotional or burden or obstacle? Does it mean place? No, that's a fundamentally wrong approach. Don't try to translate its meaning, understand what it does. Thank you.